So let's go ahead and take a look at the character library function of Automatron. Let's go ahead. As you see, I have a fresh scene. There's nothing in here at all. I'm going to go ahead and run Automatron, and the first thing that opens up when we say create bot is the Automatron character library. All this does is it tells us what file we're going to merge in, and each one of these files here has been set up by Automatron. It's been formatted in a certain way that all the object names in here are named a very specific name, and as I merge this in by hitting the merge button, Automatron will merge all those pieces in and give them the right name, so that when I look here at this particular character name or this object name, it says WS01, which is it says WS, which stands for walking system. I also want to use W because it puts it way down at the bottom of the alphabetical list, and 01 because it's in the bot 1 slot. So any one of these objects that you bring up here are going to be called the WS01 something something something. Let's go ahead and bring in another bot. So we can go ahead and say make new bot. I'm going to actually bring in the exact same model that I just brought in, and it's going to merge that in, and you'll see that we'll have a certain group of objects that are selected, and I can actually just drag those over here, and you'll see that now we have two bots. It's the exact same model from the exact same file, but now these are all named differently. So everything's named WSO2. So if there's anything in your scene that's named WS0 something, or a number, do not change that name and do not delete that object, because if you do, then Automatron will fail to recognize that as a bot system. So that's one thing that's very important, is that you never rename any of the objects that are within the Automatron bot system, or that you relink them differently, or put controllers on them. I handle all of that within Automatron. You don't have to do any of that type of work. In order to make all these other tools work, that's just what you have to do. Now, in order to save a bot to get into the bot library, we would only want to have one bot in our system. And so if we're working on a character and doing a character setup, we just have a fresh scene. We'd start to build our character, and then once we had it all set up with all the mesh and everything was skinned, then we would say save bot, and that would bring up an interface that will tell us what to do. And it's very simple. It's just going to save it into the character library, and it's going to rename everything and set up a couple of selection sets. So if you were to go in here, now that we have these two bots in here, we can see that we have a bunch of selection sets that are already set up for us, and these are made as we bring in each of these bots. So bot 1 Annie set, the Annie set is the animation set that you usually want to see in the viewport as you animate. So if we go down to the display panel, I'm going to go over here to the multiple display setup, and I'm going to select all. So both the bots are selected now, and we're going to say skins, I'm going to turn those off, and Annie set, we're going to turn those off as well. So if I hit Annie set on 2, it shows up 2. Annie set on 1, and it shows up on 1. And also the render set. Now the render set is the group of objects that you want to be rendered at render time. Since I'm not going to be rendering this group of objects, I'm going to have this as my render set. So in order to set your render set, you would hit the set render set button, and a dialog comes up and asks you to do a few things, like would you like to use the current selection as your render set, and then you say yeah, use that one there. So anytime you see that render set button, you can turn off the render set for that one skeleton, or over here I can say skins. It's the same concept here, and I can turn off the rendering skins for all the characters at one time. So if I have 12 characters in here and I have all these buttons selected over here, skins will turn off all the render skins, Annie set will turn off all the Annie sets, and also we have this other thing called the skin bone set. The skin bone set is similar to the Annie set, only that you have a few extra bones thrown in here, and for instance the progressive twisting of the character bones are in there for the arms. And this is the selection set that you will need to use when you're going to do a skinning of an object. So when I put the skin modifier on the rendering mesh and I want to add my bones, I would use this selection set to easily select the bones that go into that modifier. Now there's also some other display functions that are in here, so that you can turn on the right hand, the left hand, and the right foot, left foot, and so you can have those come on really just like that. The start spot is your initialization position for your procedural walking system. Your walk master is your main guide object for your procedural walking system. Your IK arm, left and right. So these are different systems here that are functioning. As you may know, the Automatron system has 3 different arm systems for each arm. There is the arm that you actually see in the viewport, which is this bone here and that bone there. And then there's also a inverse kinematic system, that's this one right here, and then the forward kinematic system, which is this one here. So the arm that you actually see in the viewport is actually a blending between those two systems. So as you see here, when I hit the blend value for the right arm, as you can see, here's the IK system there for the right arm. As I blend into that, we can see how it blends in nicely into that. So let's go ahead and turn off all these things here. And let's go to the procedural walking system and really quickly make an animation. So I'll just go ahead and pick something really quick, and we'll do an animation. And there, look, we have animation. That's fast. So now what I wanted to show you here is called the Automatron. And there are cameras that are automatically made for you. Now there's a macro script that you can assign to your system if you want, called Automatron, and that just brings up this panel. And every camera that's in the scene will show up in this camera selection tool. So what it does is it quickly allows you to select which camera you're going to view from. You can select the camera, you can select the target for the camera, and you can also rescan the scene in case there's new cameras added. When I actually use a procedural walking system solution, when I create one, cameras are created and animated along with the character. So I could quickly go in and say, see, this camera is actually called Automatron 3.4 for 3/4 view. This is Automatron front camera, and if I were to unhide these cameras, you'll see that every time I change the walking system here, like if I put some angle on one of these, you'll see that the camera actually is going to update with it. So go Automatron 3.4, you'll see that the camera is going to move with the character. This is really helpful when you're doing both the Walkatron editing and also your PWS solutions, is to have these cameras very conveniently placed around the character to show what's going on, so that you don't always have to chase them around with your viewport. And as you see down here, there's also some buttons in the display panel that will help you quickly select those cameras too, and also make them orthographic. See, you can go orthographic or perspective, and You can also select it, and you can also erase all these cameras as well. So I've just erased it, and now when I hit Atomic Cam button again, there's no camera, so that doesn't show up. But if I hit this button here, it'll create new cameras, but they're just not animated until you actually hit this animate button here. Then everything gets moved into place. So here's the top camera. So so there you go. There's some nice little character management tools that help make animation a lot easier in Automatron.